Hello, runners, and welcome back to the Scotiabank Toronto Waterfront Marathon virtual speaker series. My name is Kate Van Buskirk, and today I'm so lucky to be chatting with another one of my great friends and one of Canada's best distance runners, Natasha Wodak. Tasha is a two-time Olympian. She's a Pan Am Games gold medalist, a former Canadian record holder in two events, and most recently, she placed 13th at the 2020 Olympic Marathon. Welcome, Natasha.
Hi, Kate. Thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us today. It looks beautiful where you are in North Vancouver. Is that right?
Yes, I'm in North Vancouver. I'm all cozy inside because it's actually not nice here in Vancouver. It is about 8 degrees and pouring rain.
True West Coast weather. Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Do you ever get used to that as a runner?
Yeah, you do. You, as long as you're prepared with the right clothing, you're fine. But you need the waterproof jacket and a good hat. It goes a long way. So it can be a little draining if it's like a full on like 7 days straight of rain, but it poured rain for my workout on Saturday and it was fine. It's not cold. It's not quite cold enough yet though. If it's like 2 degrees and raining, then you're miserable, but you can handle this. We're tough. We're Canadian.
I love that.
A little bit of cold.
That's it. And of course, everyone preparing for any in-person racing coming up, I'm sure no matter what weather they're dealt on the day, we'll just be happy to have races back. So that's another silver lining for us to look forward to. Well, look, Tasha, you just got back. Oh, I shouldn't say just, it's been so long now. I keep kind of having to remind myself that it's actually been several weeks, but you got back from Sapporo where the Olympic Marathon was held. This was your second Olympic Games, but your first time competing in the marathon. This was actually your first major championship marathon. I want to hear all about it. Let's start with a conversation about that. What were your goals going into that Olympic marathon?
Yeah, it was, I felt as someone who has been to, many world championships for cross country and track and field, I've never done one in the marathon. So I felt like a bit of a novice running the Olympic marathon. And my first championship style marathon, I only ran two and both were basically about time. So this was very different, but it's championship racing, whether it's a marathon or 10,000 or 5K, it's sort of that same mentality. You got to stay patient. You got to run you got to run smart. You got to have your mental game top notch. So all those things were the same as they were in the 10,000. So I was able to take those tools from the past, 10 years of racing and use them in the marathon to help run a smart race. Because it was so hot, we had to make a plan and stick to this plan and run smart and be patient. And, that's tough when you get into a race. Sometimes you just want to go, and the heat will get you. There's no question about it. You can't beat the heat when it's that hot. So you have to listen to the people that were our team, which was head by Trent Stellingworth, and all the other amazing IST and support that we had on Team Canada that put together our race plans for us and how to deal with the heat. I mean, it was 26 Celsius, I think 89% humidity at 6 a.m. when it started. And then I think it was around 30 degrees, 29 degrees maybe, and like 79% humidity when we finished. So the humidity is really the killer there. It's something that I hadn't been used to here in Vancouver. But anyways, we spent months preparing for those conditions. And I was in Japan 2 weeks before the marathon to acclimatize. Being there 13 to 15 days before a race in the heat helps huge. And so that was important to get used to it. And just, taking all the fluids and the ice. I took water and or ice every single kilometer, pretty much. Like if you watch the race, you saw me dumping ice and pouring water over my head, like every single opportunity. And that was, following the plan. You start the race, you think, I'm not even hot yet. You still take that water. You still take that ice. Like these are tips for everybody. If you're running a hot marathon, have a plan and stick to it. Very important. Know what your paces need to be adjusted to. Know how much water you need to take. Like, these are going to make the big difference. And so I followed my race plan and adjusted my paces. And, I'm also fortunate that the race didn't go out super hard. So I was able to like stick in this pack of the top pack of women, which was really cool to like run in the lead group of the Olympic marathon. And at one point I was like at the very front, and I wanted to wave and be like, "Hi, Mom." But I thought that's probably not a good idea. So yeah, it was pretty cool to be up there. And then there was a part in the race where Melindy broke away from me. I think it was around 18K. And we had always said we were going to run the race together, but anything can happen. And, it was just a little bit faster than I was comfortable with going at that point in the race. And, I had this plan of not running faster than, like 332, 330 for that first 30K. And the pace, that group that went ahead was just that much faster. And I thought, no, that is going to be your end. Do not do that, because it's still too early. And it's so hard to make these choices in a race, in a championship race. And because you're like, no, I feel good, I want to go. But like, you just really have to trust your plan and that it will work. And for me, it did work. And at 33K, I started to like little Pac-Man and pick women off. And I went from 17th to 12th between 33K and 40K, which was really cool. And when you're passing people in the latter half of a race, every time you pass someone, you take some of their energy and you feed off of that. And so much better than the other way around, just holding on. And like, so that was just like kept me going in that latter stage where it got really hot and I was really tired, but I was still passing people. And then I did get passed by one person in the last 2K, which Sinead Diver, who's amazing. She passed 4 people actually in that last 2K. She got 10th. So yeah, so I'm babbling on a bit. Like, there's so much to talk about in the marathon. And anyways, I finished 13th and it was freaking awesome.
That's a great way to sum it up. Well, congratulations again, because what a performance. And
Thank you.
You talked about running with Melindy, and I know that the two of you had done quite a bit of your training together and your prep leading up. And I know you have a really close friendship with her. And of course, everyone can see that I'm wearing my shirt with all of your names on it. With many, although far from all of our top Canadian marathon heroines in our sport. It's so neat that you were able to have not only a training partner, but someone to actually like execute this type of race with. I think that's pretty rare, to not only have someone like in any marathon that you feel confident you can work together with, but the Olympic marathon of all things. It just sounds like it was such a special experience. And, we've been seeing this for the last number of years. This isn't a new phenomenon, but I'm wondering what it's like for you to feel part of this real surge of women's Canadian distance running, because that's, our distance women are some of our deepest, strongest, most incredible athletes that we have right now. And there's so many of them. There's so many of you. Tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. What you said, our distance women in Canada are on fire. And it was so exciting this spring watching like you and Julianne and Natalia and Andrea just smashing our 5,000 meter Olympic standard over and over again. It was just crazy. I just remember, 5 years ago, the women barely being able to run under 15:20. And now it was just like, it was incredible and so inspiring. And then watching, Andrea smash my Canadian record. And I can say that because, she was just here staying with me and we rewatched her race. And she got to take us through it. And it was just so cool to see this absolute domination. Like, and then being not just going to the Olympics and participating, but we're now going to compete. And I feel like that's a huge shift from, maybe 10 years ago where we were barely qualifying in events. And now we're qualifying and making finals. And, Melindy and I are placing in the top 20. And when we did some training together, we spent a lot of time obviously together in Japan talking about our race plan and how do you think we can do? And where should we aim for? And, you know, my goal was kind of like, okay, like top 20 would be amazing. I'm ranked 26th, like that would be great. And I'm like, do you think we could place like, I don't know, in the top 10? And Wendy's like, absolutely. Like we can get in the top 8, like, you know, and whereas I was like, wow, like, yeah, could we? Like, so, you know, it was that wore off on me, her confidence, and also being able to train with a 2:24:50 marathoner, our fastest Canadian marathoner of all time, was a huge confidence builder for me. So I feel really fortunate and privileged to have got to train with her and spend 2 weeks with this amazing, confident, strong woman and learn from that. And then, you know, racing with her was a huge help to me. And, you know, part of the reason I think I raced so well is because I was able to train with her and feed off of her strong, I don't know, confidence. I keep using the word confidence. It's another word for that. Mentally tough.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's such a relatable thing for a lot of people, is having someone who is experienced and like you said, confident. Like I think, you know, what's the saying, the snowball can build either way, right? So when you're around someone who maybe is lacking in confidence or has a more negative, pessimistic perspective, it often pulls the other person into that. But the same is true in a positive direction. And having a positive training partner, teammate, friend is such an important part of what we do, especially when there's so many nerves involved on the day of execution.
Yeah.
So it was really, really cool watching both of you, and Dana, we should mention, compete. And I know that you're a huge inspiration now for a whole generation of girls coming up behind you, which is so great, because I think it'll be fun to see how that unfolds over the next several years and several Olympics.
Absolutely. We're just getting started in the marathon as Canadian women. Like every year we're just like setting records and more women are running fast. So I can only imagine what it's going to be like in the next 10 years. And I'm so excited this weekend to see all of these new up and coming Canadian women running the 10K. I was just saying, I was doing an interview with Lori Ewing for CBC. And I said, there's going to be women, that for the last 2 years haven't been able to race. And they've been training away. And all of a sudden they're going to get a chance to race this weekend. And I'm going to be pleasantly surprised at some girls that I'm going to call random because I won't know them yet, but I'm going to know after this weekend because they're going to be, whoa, these new faces on the scene. So I'm excited to see what girls pop up and the new up and comers, because, you know, there's just more and more females running and racing. And it's, like you said, it's exciting and we're all inspiring each other. And so, yeah.
The snowball's headed in a good direction.
Yes, it is.
Well, look, speaking about the 10K, we mentioned that this year was your first championship marathon experience, but you've got, as you mentioned, a decade of national team experience, most of it in the 10,000. You were, until Andrea broke it recently, our 10,000 meter Canadian record holder for a long time. That was really your bread and butter, and you were incredibly successful at that distance. And one of the questions that we asked Evan Dunphy, because he's in a similar boat in that his main event this summer was 50K race walk, but he is also a 10K race walk record holder, and he's going to be competing this weekend in the 10,000 as well. I asked him what sort of the difference between the two, because 10K is a relative sprint compared to the marathon, but it's still a distance race. So maybe first of all, given that you've had now quite a bit of experience in both, do you prefer one over the other, or are they just too different?
I don't think that you have to choose, which is nice. I think you can do both, just at different times throughout the year. I do like the marathon. I really enjoyed the training, but you have to have time for it. And a lot of people in real life that have kids and a full-time job, doing a proper marathon build can be stressful. And it's easier to do a 10K. It's just less time that you have to run. And you can get away with training for a 10K by doing, you know, a couple easy runs and a couple interval workouts. And the interval workouts are shorter. But for the marathon, you can't really get away with skipping your long run or like just doing some shorter stuff. So you have to have the time for it. So I think if you do, you know, those Sunday long runs can be really enjoyable when you get to meet your crew and you get to, you know, or have your partner bike with you, whatever it may be. I think a lot of people really enjoy that part of the marathon. And, you know, I just had a friend, well, I'm sure everybody, you were there actually in Boston. I had a friend that ran the Boston Marathon, and she had a hip fracture a year ago. And Alan, my partner, actually did surgery on her hip. And a year later, she ran the Boston Marathon, and, you know, she wasn't the time that she had originally wanted, but she worked so hard for the training. And when she crossed that line, you know, you can see her little video on Instagram after. She was very emotional. There's nothing like finishing a marathon. It is one of the most amazing feelings, knowing how much work you put in, knowing the sacrifice, and then just crossing that finish line is just an unreal feeling. And elite or non-elite, it's the same. And that's really special about the marathon. And one day I'm sure you will get to experience that. And also, usually when you run a marathon, you get to travel somewhere kind of cool, and you make it a whole weekend, like with maybe your partner or your best friend or your mom or your sister, whatever. So there's that dynamic to the marathon. But, you know, the 10K, short and sweet, you can do a whole bunch. Like you can do one every month or two every month. So right now I'm sticking to the 10K and the half marathon for the next however many months until the spring. So I'm enjoying doing some of the shorter training. It's refreshing. And then I'm sure I'll get itching again in the spring when the weather gets nicer to go out for those long runs.
For sure. Yeah, that's always a nice way to get the thaw out of you, I guess, after the winter. So you talked about, you know, being able to enjoy both and not having to choose. And I really like that. So I shouldn't have asked which you prefer more, because I think it's
That's
absolutely
okay.
true that they're different, and it's great to be able to appreciate and enjoy them. Now, lots of people throughout this month of October are doing their Scotiabank Toronto Waterfront Marathon and other events virtually, because of course we're not able to hold those events in person yet. But there are going to be a whole bunch of people who are going to be stepping on a start line for the first time on Sunday in a really long time, and tackling this 10K, which is going to feel amazing, because it's just been this return to in-person racing is such a gift for all of us.
Yes.
But that being said, and several of my friends in Boston this weekend were mentioning this, there's some shaking off of the rust to do, because if we've been doing virtual racing and time trialing, it's great because it's a way to keep our motivation high, but there's no practicing like doing. So for those who haven't raced in a long time, or maybe they're tackling their first 10K, what are maybe some of the key reminders that you would give them about how to be successful in their in-person 10K on Sunday?
Wow. Well, I'm trying to think back to my first like in-person race, which was in Arizona last year, and I hadn't raced in almost a year. And I think really to just go into it and really embrace the whole experience and have fun with it is the best way to sort of get rid of some of those nerves, and just look at it as like, you know, we say run with gratitude. And so be there and be like, I'm so grateful to be here, and be confident, know that you're only going to run faster at this race because you're around people. Like it's going to be just such a great fun experience. I'm really excited about it. I haven't run a 10K non-virtually in almost 2 years. I think I've run like 5 time trials in the last 2 years, 5 virtual races. And so I'm also going to be busting the rust off my 10K. So yeah, like you're going to be nervous. That's part of the game. So just, know that that's totally normal, and just try to have fun with it. And remember, it's supposed to be fun. We're doing this because we're supposed to enjoy it, and yeah, like cheer on people as you go by them, and just enjoy the whole day.
That's such a good reminder, because sometimes the nerves do take over us, especially if we haven't had the practice with shaking them out recently.
Yeah.
And my coaches always say, the work is done by the time you get to the start line. So
Yeah.
the race is the dessert to the meal. So you should enjoy it. You're right. And
Yeah.
I think many times when we can focus on enjoying it, we're actually more successful.
Yeah.
So let's talk about your actual race day, because we just had this conversation about how we've got really tremendous depth in our women's distance runners right now. And of course, you're going to be facing off with many of them. And as you mentioned, also some new faces on Sunday. How are you feeling about your race? And without giving away all your secrets, what are some of your plans for how you might tackle your 10K championships on Sunday?
Well, the two girls that Sarah Ingalls and Leslie Sexton are the two fastest in the field, besides myself, with Brianna Scott as well in there. I've done workouts with both Leslie and Sarah because Leslie's now in Vancouver. So I know that they are both fit. And Sarah just ran a 25, 35, 8K. I don't know if you saw that. That's smoking fast. So they're gonna, it's gonna be a battle, I think, between the four of us. I'm not sure if there's any other girls in the field that have run under 33:30 so far that I know of, but they very well could be in the mix on that day. You never underestimate anyone. So, my fitness has come along. I have an idea of where I am, but race day, anything can happen. And I'm pretty tough. So don't count me out. I'm pretty tough. I'm pretty gritty. So I'm just excited to get back in there. I am a little worried that like my mental toughness might be a little soft because I used a lot of it in Tokyo. And so maybe when it gets hard, I might be like, oh, I can't quite access that. Because you can only really, go to the well so many times a year. It's just the way it is. And so we'll see if I'm recovered from that and I can find that bit. But yeah, I'm just really excited to be in a Canadian road race again and to see my Canadian friends and race with these girls. And it's going to be fun. The whole weekend, I'm staying 4 full days because I can't wait to be there and be a part of it, and hopefully after the race have a drink with you. So
You betcha.
It'll be good times. Yeah, be good times.
That's great.
And see Alan Brooks.
Another Alan.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, the one thing that I can almost guarantee for you is that it will not be 30 degrees and 90% humidity on Sunday for your race. So
hey,
if there's
that might be a
there,
good thing for me. That might help me because I have more training than the other girls in those conditions. So
that's true. That's true. Well, maybe not just for your sake then, but for everyone's sake, we'll count ourselves lucky that the weather does look like it's going to be favorable. It will be so exciting for not only for us to see each other in person, Tasha, because we were at the Olympics together and didn't actually ever get to see each other because we weren't in the same city at the same time. So this will be a real treat for us. And like you said, I'm going to be part of the broadcast team. We've got a fantastic day planned. It's just such an exciting concept to be back out, seeing so much of our community in one place together again, celebrating safely, of course. There's lots of great measures in place to make sure that we can continue doing this in-person racing throughout the winter and into next year. But we wish you the very best of luck. How can folks follow along and learn more about you?
Well, I have a website, natashawodak.com. I'm also on Twitter and Instagram and Strava. And those are either Natasha Wodak or Tasha Wodak. So
great.
Follow along my journeys. I hope you like cats. Otherwise, you might get annoyed.
Tell us quickly about the charity that you are an ambassador for with your cat.
I volunteer. It's called VOCRA, Vancouver Orphan Kitten Rescue Association. It's here in Vancouver, and it's completely nonprofit. Everyone except one person is a volunteer that works there. And yeah, we just rescue cats and kittens from all over Vancouver and the Lower Mainland. And we get them healthy, we get them into foster care, and then they get adopted out. So we never euthanize. We spay and neuter a lot, lots of kittens. And I've been there for 7 years and I volunteer every Friday and I love it. So if you're in Vancouver and you've ever thought about volunteering, now is the time. You don't even ever have to go in. We have tons of stuff that can be done on your computer. Or if you do want to play with cats, you do have to clean up kitten and cat poop sometimes and clean litter boxes and feed them. But it's all worth it when you get a snuggle kittens. It's only a 2-hour requirement every week.
That's a great plug.
Volunteering feels good, I will say. And for no other reason than just because I love cats.
Well, if you also love cats and want to learn more about Natasha's cats or about, it's about Vokra?
Vokra, yeah.
Vokra, and more about Vokra. And then of course, more about Natasha as a runner and a person, especially as she heads into this weekend's Canadian 10K National Championships. You can follow along on her social and at her website. And of course, cheer her on your computer screen or in real life, as the kids say, IRL in Toronto, if you are there this Sunday. Natasha, thanks so much for joining us and good luck again.
Thanks, Kate.